There's also been Mr. P. Chidambaram in jail in an ED case, so one can well imagine if you're talking about high-profile cases, really the agency doesn't quite see that. But what does it mean? Why does it mean that Manish Sisodia now could be in for the long haul? We're going to bring in Manish back, but I want to also now cut across to my colleague Anisha, who's joining us. Anisha, the latest news, Manish Sisodia now has been arrested by the ED. So even tomorrow, even if he gets bail by the special CBI court, Manish Sisodia is not going to see the proverbial light of day where bail is concerned.
Well, very clearly, Preeti, this is one thing that the Aam Aadmi Party has been saying continuously, that because their argument continuously has been that this is a political case, that they believe that the ED is going to arrest Sisodia so that they can keep him in jail for a longer period. Now, when it comes to the law, Preeti, we need to remember that the PMLA, which is the Money Laundering Act, if you can hear me, Preeti, if you look at the law per se, the PMLA as an act has provisions that are very, very strict when it comes to any bail provisions. Getting bail in a PMLA case implies that you have been able to, as the accused, show that you have the burden of proof to show that the case against you can stand. It is in any other offense, it is the other way around, that the prosecution has to show that you could possibly affect the investigation or you could possibly influence witnesses. But in a PMLA case, it is up to you as the accused to show that the case against you is not as serious or it cannot stand per se, and that you will not have anything to do with the witnesses or the evidence in this case. Here, the Enforcement Directorate, as Manish was just talking about, has been saying that Mr. Sisodia is not cooperating, that he has been confronted with other accused, but he is not giving the requisite answers. And Preeti, you just mentioned Mr. Chidambaram's case. Now remember, P. Chidambaram and Karti Chidambaram both had to face jail in the PMLA case. They had to go all the way up to the Supreme Court to get bail in the cases against them because of the way the law itself is structured. Because money laundering is seen as a very serious economic offense, because money laundering is seen as an attack on the economy and the polity of the country itself. And this is a quote from one of the Supreme Court judgments on why these cases are taken so seriously. That is why it is extremely difficult for most persons, for any person really, to get a bail at this stage of the trial court. Most of the and of course, in any case at this stage, since Mr. Sisodia has just been arrested by the ED, in the next 14 days, of course, we will see the Enforcement Directorate approaching the court for his custodial interrogation. Tomorrow morning, when the bail hearing is supposed to happen in this court of Special CBI Judge M.K. Nagpal, at the same time, the ED's application for custodial interrogation will also most probably be there in the court and before the bail,
Well, you know, you're right there, because there's going to be, why is there a difference when the CBI swoops in or when the ED swoops in? The sheer fact that the Aam Aadmi Party would now, because they did it, viewers, just about 3 hours ago, the news that broke is that the Aam Aadmi Party sent out a clear press release stating that the ED will arrest Manish Sisodia. So it was preemptive strike. They want to push in the narrative that the agencies are working at the behest of the center. But the politics of it all aside, I just want to break down the case. Not many months ago, Vijay Nair, the communication chief of the Aam Aadmi Party, was arrested by the CBI. When he was getting bail from the CBI court, the ED swooped in. Vijay Nair, till date, is in Tihar jail in judicial custody. And Manish, that's why I want to bring you in. Is this the reason, or is this the trajectory that Manish Sisodia's case could follow? Because viewers, I was just chatting with my colleague Manish just before I came in for this broadcast, and we were discussing Mr. P. Chidambaram's case. It's the shortest that a high-profile personality has actually stayed in where the ED arrest was concerned, and it was 109 days. But what sets Manish Sisodia's case apart, Manish, would you elucidate?
Well, Preeti, as far as P. Chidambaram case was concerned, in terms of amount of evidence which the agencies have, in case of P. Chidambaram, what I can say as a reporter, and that is my assumption, that it was much more weaker than what the case is against Sisodia. But still, in spite of a person who himself is a very big lawyer in the country, Mr. P. Chidambaram had to stay in jail for 190 days. Earlier, he was arrested by CBI, then he was arrested by ED. The same path we are witnessing in the case of Manish Sisodia. Now, what agencies are claiming that they have ample amount of evidence, in case of Manish Sisodia. CBI arrested him. He was in CBI custody for 7 days. Then he was sent to Tihar jail. But Preeti, the agencies are within their right to arrest a person at any given point of time. Under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, the only rule which the ED is allowed to follow is that before arresting a person, the person should be given a chance to prove that he is innocent. Under Prevention of Money Laundering Act, the onus is on the accused to prove himself that he is innocent, and the same opportunity was given to Manish Sisodia. Now, ED was within their rights to arrest Mr. Manish Sisodia. The timing can be questioned, yes. One can also say that it was a strategy between the Central Bureau of Investigation and the Enforcement Directorate that he should not get bail, and if he is getting bail, make sure that the other agency arrest him. That can be a strategy, but end of the day, the agencies are within their right to arrest a person if they have evidence. And as so far we have been given to understand is that the ED case is based on the evidence which they have against Manish Sisodia. They are claiming that they gave him opportunity in terms of questioning regarding the excise policy, the tweaks in the excise policy, the profit margin which was raised to 12%. He was also asked about the deleted files, that is a draft copy of excise policy, and he was also confronted with 2 witnesses during this interrogation. But when the ED was satisfied that they have good amount of evidence based on which they can arrest Manish Sisodia under Prevention of Money Laundering Act, this evening, just a while back, he was placed under arrest, and
Right.
Around 5 o'clock, India Today reported also that there is a high possibility that he will be arrested today.
All right, I'm going to come right back to you, Manish. Let me quickly bring in the BJP IT cell head, Amit Malviya, on the phone line with us. Mr. Malviya, the Delhi Chief Minister has just tweeted once again calling it a witch hunt, saying, we told you this afternoon that the ED was going to swoop in and arrest Manish Sisodia before the CBI bail hearing tomorrow.
Look, I don't want to comment on what the Delhi Chief Minister said because he tweets all the time, and most of the time they are unverified, unsubstantiated stuff. He has made several claims with respect to Satyendra Jain, who happens to be in jail for the last 9 months because they have failed to prove his innocence in the court of law. As far as Manish Sisodia is concerned, this is law taking its course. The ED is well within its right to step in because it's a matter of financial crime and investigate the matter and take custody of the accused, in this case, Manish Sisodia. The PMLA has been upheld by the Supreme Court, and what is happening and unfolding is as per law. If Manish Sisodia is innocent, and if the Aam Aadmi Party thinks that he has done no wrong, they should put the facts in front of the court, and I'm sure the court will see merit in the arguments that they have to make, the evidence that they have to provide. But I don't know of many people who destroy phones and SIM cards with the kind of frequency that Manish Sisodia did. So if Manish Sisodia really had nothing to hide, why was he destroying his cell phones and his SIM cards? I mean, there's something not quite right. If the policy was right, they should not have reversed it. They should not have been lost to the public exchequer. All of this thing happened under Manish Sisodia's watch. He was the kingpin. Several officers have gone on record to say that he was driving this entire excise policy. Several people, the beneficiaries, in fact, have said that there was cartelization. The margin to the wholesalers was increased significantly, and the Aam Aadmi Party was receiving kickbacks. So amidst all these allegations, it is very natural for the ED to step in and take custody of Manish Sisodia. After all, he was acting at the behest of Arvind Kejriwal. And I say that again, if at all the Aam Aadmi Party believes that he's innocent, they should place the evidence in front of the court, and I'm sure the court will find merit in it.
Well, appreciate you joining us, Mr. Malviya. It's a matter of investigation, and the onus is, at least in the case of the CBI, on the CBI to prove whether Manish Sisodia is guilty. Till now, there's nothing on Arvind Kejriwal, but will he also be called in for questioning? Well, his personal assistant has been, but we're going to leave it at that. It's still not proven. It is a matter of investigation and for the investigative agencies to prove. But let's cut across right now. Also, the first reaction coming in from the Aam Aadmi Party, and it has come directly from the Chief Minister of Delhi, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, who's tweeted just about 2 minutes ago, saying, Manish को पहले CBI ने गिरफ्तार किया, CBI को कोई सबूत नहीं मिला, रेड में कोई पैसा नहीं मिला, कल बेल पर सुनवाई है, कल मनीष छूट जाते तो आज ईडी ने गिरफ्तार कर लिया। इनका एक ही मकसद है, मनीष को हर हालत में अंदर रखना। रोज नए फर्जी मामले बनाकर जनता देख रही है, जनता जवाब देगी। Now this is what the Delhi Chief Minister says, understandably politically building into the narrative of vendetta politics and a witch hunt. I want to cut across right now immediately to my colleague Amit Bhardwaj, who's joining us in front of the Aam Aadmi Party headquarters. We're going to be hearing in from the Aam Aadmi Party very soon, Amit, a press conference coming in. But this was the narrative that the Aam Aadmi Party wanted to build. Just about 3 hours ago, there was clear indication by the Aam Aadmi Party where they, through a press release, where they stated that Manish Sisodia is going to be arrested by the ED today.
Right, Preeti. In fact, India Today broke the story as to how Aam Aadmi Party top sources are claiming that Manish Sisodia could be arrested today itself. And they had, they were afraid, or they believed that after 2 rounds of questioning, Manish Sisodia will be arrested by the Enforcement Directorate. And they were actually basing this entire claim because Manish Sisodia's bail hearing is scheduled for tomorrow in the Rouse Avenue Court, where the CBI was expected to respond to the Sisodia's bail plea. And now what Aam Aadmi Party was, the entire narrative that Aam Aadmi Party was pushing, or the stage that it was setting up, has been proven correct. Enforcement Directorate has arrested Manish Sisodia in this case. We know for a matter of fact that the bail hearing was scheduled for tomorrow, and Aam Aadmi Party believed that, he could get some sort of legal relief from the court. At least there could be a hope or ray of hope tomorrow during the bail hearing itself, that Manish Sisodia could get released in the excise policy case as far as the CBI investigation is concerned. But now you just heard, you read out what Arvind Kejriwal is claiming. That's going to be that's precisely going to be Aam Aadmi Party's defense line from here, that he has been arrested because he would have been released in the CBI case, and that's why Enforcement Directorate has been chipped in. Back to
All right,
Preeti.
I'm going to cut across to 2 other reporters. Akshay Dongre joins us right outside Tihar jail, as well as Anisha continues to be with us. Anisha, breaking it down, how the ED case is different from CBI, and why an arrest by the ED is so much more complicated by just a sheer CBI arrest. We're going to go into Anisha on that, but Akshay, coming to you. Manish Sisodia lodged right now in Tihar jail, but tomorrow, once he is produced, in all probability, up to 14 days is what the ED custody can actually go up to. So he could very well, from Tihar, be out, but in the custody of the Enforcement Directorate tomorrow.
Well, absolutely, Preeti. In fact, the Enforcement Directorate teams had also come here on 7th of March too. Today was the second day in 3 days when Mr. Manish Sisodia was questioned and interrogated by the Enforcement Directorate. Now there is all likelihood that the production warrant will be sought by the Enforcement Directorate tomorrow, and after that there is in all likelihood he will be placed under arrest by the Enforcement Directorate. His custody will be given to the Enforcement Directorate. So that is one challenge for the Aam Aadmi Party. That is what the Aam Aadmi Party was fearing, in fact, because there was a bail plea tomorrow. If Enforcement Directorate wouldn't have moved to arrest Manish Sisodia today, he may or may not have gotten bail. That depends on the court. But that is what the Aam Aadmi Party is claiming right now, that Mr. Manish Sisodia would have gotten bail tomorrow, and the politics is taking place over the timing of the Enforcement Directorate coming here and working in a very hasty manner. However, there was an interrogation for about 8 hours. The Enforcement Directorate is following all the money trail. There are allegations that Mr. Manish Sisodia destroyed evidences, destroyed the cell phones. He formed policies to favor cartelization, and all of these are very serious charges. And there are charges of money laundering against Mr. Manish Sisodia, and that is what the Enforcement Directorate will be probing, or rather focusing their investigation on, because in CBI's case, they had arrested Mr. Manish Sisodia on 26th of February, and after that he was sent to the judicial custody here. So Manish Sisodia will be taken out of the Tihar jail, and for about 14 days the ED will try to maximize the number of days in which they can seek custody as far as the this entire case is concerned, because in the earlier hearings as well, be it the Enforcement Directorate or be it CBI, they have been stating one fact in front of the court, that Mr. Manish Sisodia is not cooperating with the investigation, and that is why maximum time has been sought by both of these investigative agencies in different cases, when there was a charge sheet and when they had appeared in front of the court earlier as well. So in all likelihood, the ED will want a 14-day custody of Mr. Manish Sisodia. So troubles increasing for the Aam Aadmi Party, especially Mr. Manish Sisodia, who till very recently was the Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi. Preeti?
Well, the Aam Aadmi Party would just say that he's still the Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi. He's under arrest. He's still not been stripped of the title, Akshay. But let's cut across right now. Of course, he's lost his ministries. There are new ministers at play. But I want to cut across immediately now to my colleague Anisha, because viewers, it's very important to understand what is the difference between the CBI and the ED case against Manish Sisodia, and why, Anisha, the ED arrest is so much more complicated for Manish Sisodia.
Well, Preeti, for our viewers, we'll need to look at the differences in how the ED and the CBI work. Of course, this entire investigation has arisen out of the allegations that the liquor policy was deliberately changed, that government documents were leaked to certain liquor cartels, that there were kickbacks received from certain liquor cartels, and the Delhi government and excise officials were involved in this entire scam. Now, what the CBI is investigating is the change in the liquor policy, the kickbacks that were received, as well as the allegations that the government documentation, that is the draft policy, etc., they had been deliberately leaked and cartels were allowed to have a say in creating the policy. What the ED is investigating is the kickbacks and the money trail. Now, remember, the ED's investigation kicks in on the basis of the investigation of the CBI. The CBI is investigating these allegations, and the ED is saying that they have found money trails, that the ED is saying that they are looking into where the money has come from, who has received it, where it has gone, how it has been spent. Now, please remember that Manish Sisodia is not yet named in the charge sheet itself, but has been named by certain co-accused and witnesses as part of being involved in this entire system. As far as the allegations against Manish Sisodia in the CBI case are concerned, they arise from the evidence that the ED, that the CBI has collected with regard to transfer of information, with regard to cell phones and other electronic devices which were changed or destroyed. It has also come from witnesses who said that the buck stopped, where the buck stopped, who were the people responsible in introducing the various cogs in this particular scam machine to each other, and who exactly was responsible for making the decisions. Now, when we look at the CBI and ED cases, why the ED cases are more complicated is because of how the law is structured. The CBI works under the IPC laws and CRPC provisions, which basically means that their powers to arrest, their powers to seize, and their powers to keep somebody in jail depend on the prosecuting agency being able to prove that if you release X person from jail during this investigation, then this person will be able to influence the witnesses, or will be able to run away from justice, or will be able to damage the evidence. On the ED investigation, the PMLA, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, kicks in, which has specific provisions to make bail very, very difficult. Section 45 of the PMLA Act specifically includes provisions which mean that to get bail in an ED case, a person who is accused, the ex-person who is under allegations, has to show that the allegations against them by themselves are not serious enough to keep them in jail for a long period of time, or that the investigation against them is not of the sort that their custody will be required. Now, in that scenario, and we've seen Supreme Court verdicts coming in on this, we've seen High Court verdicts coming in on this, and the way the Act itself is structured is because economic offences are seen as very, very serious in the country, and particularly when it comes to allegations like these, where there are political, administrative, and economic mischief that has been done. there the courts themselves have said that it is a very serious issue, that an economic offense hits at the economic future and stability of the country. And that is why the law itself has been structured to ensure that if somebody is under such serious allegations, then they are not able to come out and then influence the investigation, nor are they allowed to come out while the investigation at least is on. We saw this even in the case of, as we were discussing earlier, Mr. Chidambaram.
Anisha, I'm going to stop you, and I understand you're simplifying it for our viewers, and I'm going to come right back to all our reporters, but let's cut across to a lot of flood of political reactions coming in.
और ये पैसा बाद में कैसे गोवा पहुंचा, कैसे गुजरात पहुंचा, इसकी जानकारी भी मनीष सिसोदिया को है। किस तरह से पैसे की मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग हुई, किस तरह से हवाले के माध्यम से अलग-अलग स्टेटों में पैसा बेचा गया, किस तरह से वाउचरों के नाम के ऊपर शराब के ठेकेदारों से पैसा कलेक्ट किया गया, किस तरह से वो पैसा किताबों में एडजस्ट किया गया, ये सारी जानकारी मनीष सिसोदिया के पास है, अरुण पलई के पास है और अमनदीप धल के पास है। अब देश के सामने सच्चाई आएगी। अरविंद केजरीवाल जो कट्टर बेईमान हैं, किस तरह से उनके मंत्री पैसा इकट्ठा करते थे और कैसे हवाले के माध्यम से, सबसे खतरनाक देश की इकोनॉमी के लिए जो माध्यम है वो हवाला है, हवाले के माध्यम से उन पैसों को ठिकाने लगाए गए। अब ये सारे सच देश के सामने आएंगे।
All right, we continue to get in all the reactions. Amit, I want to come to you. When are we expecting a press conference by the Aam Aadmi Party? Understandably, they've been building that narrative, which was bolstered by the Delhi Chief Minister's tweet, where he says this is a witch hunt and the BJP has to answer the people of Delhi. Are we expecting any reactions from the Aam Aadmi Party soon?
Well, Preeti, you know, the major line of defense or attack has been put out by Arvind Kejriwal itself, saying that Manish Sisodia was about to get bail in the CBI case, and that is why Enforcement Directorate has been chipped in. And the centre is making all efforts to ensure that Manish Sisodia remains behind the bar. So this is going to be the central defense by Aam Aadmi Party's all leaders who are going to speak from here on. We are expecting that there could be some briefing by Aam Aadmi Party leaders in short while from now, because for a matter of fact, today AAP had also called all its workers and organizational members, important office bearers in terms of organization at the party headquarters in the national capital. So all Delhi workers were called here along with the organizational office bearers, and there was a complete sort of a communication strategy which was being handed out to these workers. In fact, AAP is going to carry out a door-to-door campaign of sorts from 13th of March itself, 3 days from now, and they were expecting that this big jolt could be on the way. They knew that Enforcement Directorate is going to arrest Manish Sisodia today, and we broke the story around 5 p.m. in the evening, and now that the ED has arrested Manish Sisodia, AAP's claim stands true. So what we are expecting is that possibly in some time from now, a couple of senior leaders might step forward to have a media interaction and put forward the arguments which has been given out by Arvind Kejriwal, the party's chief, in this particular matter. But clearly, Preeti, AAP was expecting, as far as the CBI case is concerned, they were expecting that if this matter goes to the bail hearing, there's a higher likelihood that there was some sort of hope for Manish Sisodia. He might have gotten bail from the Rouse Avenue case. Court. But now that the Enforcement Directorate has
so the question is, Amit, would he have gotten bail or would he not have gotten bail? That's a different case, but there was a possibility and a probability of that. But one thing is very clear, and we're going to cut across to Akshay and my colleague Anisha. But first up, before viewers, let's take you through, because there are multiple angles to this story. Let's take you now to the southern angle of it all. Ms. K. Kavita spoke exclusively to India Today just about 2 hours ago. She's been questioned by the ED on the 11th, where the BRS has also gone and said that she could be arrested by the ED. Now, will that happen? Many say improbable, at least as of now, but let's listen in to what she had to tell us.
मेरे अकेले का मुद्दा नहीं है, हमारे खुद के पार्टी में मिनिमम 15-16 लोगों को, MLAs को, MPs को, मिनिस्टर्स को टारगेट करके अलग अलग केसेस में बुलाने का काम कर रहे हैं। लेकिन हम भी मोदी जी से और भारतीय जनता पार्टी से और पूरे देश की जनता से बता दें कि हम डरने वालों से नहीं हैं।
All right, let's cut across back to our battery of reporters who are completely giving our viewers a lowdown in terms of what this arrest would mean for Manish Sisodia, simplifying it for you viewers. It is difficult, to understand the complexities between a CBI arrest or an ED arrest. But one thing that we can tell you that troubles are only mounting for Manish Sisodia, because an ED arrest, like Anisha just pointed out, and the purview of the law is way more complicated than a CBI arrest. And now with this arrest, what it means for Manish Sisodia, a mirror or a picture of that could be painted with where is the communication chief of the Aam Aadmi Party today. Well, he got bail on the CBI court. He was then arrested by the ED, and till date, Vijay Nair is in jail. So just a small example of that. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to cut across right now to Akshay Dongre as well. Akshay, second time today, the ED had questioned Manish Sisodia. They've ended it with an arrest. What are your sources telling you? Is the ED going to look for a full 14-day custody of Mr. Sisodia, or, go with a 4-day or a 6-day custody first?
Well, Preeti, initially the modus operandi usually is the enforcement directorate seeks about 4 to 5 days of custody when they go to the court. Because asking for a 14-day custody, they have to justify in front of the court that why exactly do they need a 14-day full custody, because that is the maximum limit to what the enforcement directorate actually can seek. So they usually go for a 5-day or 6-day custody, asking that they need to find details about the money laundering case, the money trail. The investigation requires about 4 to 5 days. So usually the argument that is made in front of the court is that they seek some time. Before that custody is about to end, there is another hearing in front of the court. So the enforcement directorate, when the custody is about to end, can seek additional days on the ground that the accused person is not cooperating with the investigation, or if he is let out, or rather if he is sent to the judicial custody, he may try and hamper the evidences, or may try to tamper or rather try to influence the witnesses. So these are usually the grounds. This is what we saw in Mr. P. Chidambaram's case as well. The enforcement directorate sought the custody with themselves for few days in the first go, and then as they went ahead with the investigation, they started seeking more days of custody. And that is in all likelihood going to happen with Mr. Manish Sisodia as well, that the enforcement directorate may seek a few days of custody, and then they can go ahead if their investigation is not complete, if they are not ready to file a charge sheet, file the entire case, then they may seek additional days of custody. But from the looks of it, they may try and find seek all 14 days that they have for interrogating Mr. Manish Sisodia, because this is a very, very complex case. There is a lot of money trail according to the enforcement directorate. They have to find each and every angle. They have to probe each and every angle as far as this case is concerned. There are a lot of accused people who they will try and confront with Mr. Manish Sisodia. So it is going to be a very, very difficult time for Mr. Manish Sisodia as soon as the enforcement directorate gets a custody to probe.
Right, just stay with us, Akshay. Harish Khurana, the Delhi Chief Minister has practically said, we preempted this. We knew you're going to do this. You're going to use the ED, and the ED will come in for arrest just on the eve of his bail hearing.
See, I don't know where he used to get every information that tomorrow his bail will be accepted and he'll be released. I don't know where he get the information from. But the actual matter of the fact is, there's a 100 crore rupees money laundering case, and the inquiry was been on since quite long. And I don't know, Arvind Kejriwal is in a habit of giving a certificate of honesty to is a habit very early, anytime he's in a habit of giving a very early stage, Same case happened in the Satyan Jain case also, you remember? 90 days, since 9 months he's in jail on the order of the court only, not by the ED or not by the CBI. So my point is, you should face what the law says, and face the court, whatever the court will decide. We all should accept it. But why are you in a hurry of sending a vendetta message? We are being targeted. We are being afraid. BJP is afraid of that, or certificate of honesty. I don't know. Let the law will take their own course. But it's a serious matter. Money laundering matter is a serious matter, serious offence. And I think this ये जांच है वो निश्चित तौर के ऊपर सीएम की है, because we all know without the consent of the CM nothing happens in the Aam Aadmi Party government. And if Aam Aadmi Party government has done something, it has to be approval by the CM. So CM cannot run away with this kind of whatever the alleged scam what has happened. He has to face the heat also.
All right, Mr. Khurana, do stay with us. I'm going to continue to get the latest that is coming in. I'll cut across once again to my colleague Anisha. Anisha, if you just go by the sheer trajectory of Vijay Nayar's case, this is, practically following that same trajectory.
Well, Preeti, let's look at how all cases go. All cases, when there is an ED investigation involved, pretty much follow the same trajectory because the Enforcement Directorate by law follows the CBI investigation. If there is a crime that the agencies are probing, then the Enforcement Directorate swings into action and looks at where the money earned from that particular crime is going. And in this case, if you look at it, the allegations are pretty serious. The allegations, as the BJP keeps repeating, is about more than 100 crores of kickbacks, money received from Hawala, money allegedly received from liquor cartels, money received by senior Aam Aadmi Party functionaries, which was then funneled into party funds, which was then used by the party in various activities. So these are not simple allegations. The ED and the CBI both, and I'm just telling this for the sake of our viewers to understand the issue, the CBI will at some point have to explain each and every step of this alleged scam, where this money came from, if any money was received, what kind of how do they say that this is a scam? The ED, on the other hand, has to show that the money has come from Hawala channels, that any sort of illegal monetary transactions have taken place, that these are XYZ are the people involved in taking the money, in transporting the money, in using the money, in hiding the money. Every part of that transaction is something that the ED will be probing. And even if the agency cannot prove directly that A, B or C took that cash from another co-accused, if they can prove that this person was involved in either moving that cash or using that cash or taking the decision of where that cash has to be used, all of that comes within the offense of money.
All right, Anisha, I'll just come back to you. Let's cut across right now to Sanjay Singh from the Aam Aadmi Party. संजय जी, अब तो लग रहा है कि ये लंबा चलेगा. ईडी का अरेस्ट मतलब कम से कम 2-3 महीने जेल में.
नहीं, देखिए, मुझे लगता है कि ये जो सब कुछ किया जा रहा है, इसके पीछे जो दुर्भावना की जो राजनीति है और जो नफरत की राजनीति है, बदले की भावना की जो राजनीति है, वही काम कर रही है. क्योंकि पहली चार्जशीट में मनीष सिसोदिया जी का नाम नहीं, 14 घंटे घर पे छापेमारी की, कुछ नहीं मिला, गांव में कुछ नहीं मिला, बैंक के लॉकर में कुछ नहीं मिला, दफ्तर में कुछ नहीं मिला. और एक तरफ बीजेपी का एमएलए है जिसके बेटे के घर पे 8 करोड़ रुपए की बरामदगी होती है, उसको तुरंत जमानत भी मिल जाती है, सारे मीडिया के लिए गैग ऑर्डर भी आ जाता है. तो मुझे लगता है कि ये साफ तौर पे खुली आंखों से लोगों को दिख रहा है कि लाखों करोड़ का जो भ्रष्टाचार कर रहा है अडानी, वो तो मोदी जी उसके हवाई जहाज में घूमेंगे, उस पर कोई कार्रवाई नहीं होगी. जो मोदी जी की पार्टी में शामिल हो जाएगा उस पर कोई कार्रवाई नहीं होगी. लेकिन जो विपक्ष के लोग हैं उनको परेशान करना है. सीबीआई से 2 बार रिमांड ली गई, कुछ नहीं मिला इनको. उसके बाद पहली दूसरी चार्जशीट में मनीष सिसोदिया का नाम नहीं था और अचानक उनको पहले सीबीआई गिरफ्तार करती है और फिर जब एक दिन पहले जमानत कल होनी है, कल उसकी तारीख थी, जमानत मिल भी जाती, कोई साक्ष्य नहीं था सीबीआई के पास, और ऐसे समय में एक दिन पहले ईडी ने गिरफ्तार कर लिया. तो खुली आंखों से लोग देख रहे हैं और समझ आ रहा है लोगों को. मौका आने पे दिल्ली के लोग और देश के लोग जवाब देंगे इनको.
संजय जी, इसमें भाजपा, क्योंकि हरीश खुराना हमारे साथ हैं, वो कह रहे हैं कि ये एक पॉलिटिकल भूमिका बांधी जा रही है आम आदमी पार्टी ने कि अब ईडी आएगी, ईडी अरेस्ट करेगी. अब जब डर क्या है, अगर इन्वेस्टिगेशन हो रही है, अगर दूध का दूध पानी का पानी हो जाएगा.
नहीं, ये देखिए, ये एक बहुत ही हास्यास्पद तर्क है प्रीति जी. अगर हम किसी के ऊपर 307 का फर्जी मुकदमा लिख दें और कहें कि भाई आपके ऊपर हत्या के प्रयास का मुकदमा है, आपने कुछ किया तो है नहीं, जांच होने दीजिए. आप पे बलात्कार का मुकदमा लिख दें, हत्या का मुकदमा लिख दें और कह दें आपने किया तो है नहीं, आप रोज जांच कराते रहिए, घूमते रहिए, क्या दिक्कत है आपको, आपने कुछ किया नहीं, जांच होने दीजिए. तो ये अपने आप में बहुत ही हास्यास्पद फूहड़ सा तर्क है कि जांच कराइए, जांच कराने में क्या दिक्कत है. अरे भाई, आप फर्जी मुकदमे लिखते चले जाएंगे, आप विपक्ष के लोगों का हैरेसमेंट करेंगे, और फिर कहेंगे मुकदमे हो गए तो जांच कराइए, क्या दिक्कत है, सारे काम छोड़ दीजिए आप। तो ये मसला ये है कि आपसे जुड़ा हुआ व्यक्ति या आपकी पार्टी में जो आ जाता है तो वो तो वॉशिंग मशीन में साफ हो जाता है, दूध का धुला हो जाता है, राजा हरिश्चंद्र हो जाता है, उस पर कोई कार्रवाई नहीं होती। ये दिख रहा है लोगों को।
बस आखिरी सवाल करूंगी संजय जी, क्या अब जो आम आदमी पार्टी है और जो आप लोग हैं ये अब मान चुके हैं कि लंबे समय तक मनीष सिसोदिया आप जेल में रहेंगे?
देखिए, कल तो मैंने एक प्रस्ताव भी दिया था कि 13 मार्च से सदन शुरू हो रहा है, तो आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी एक कानून लेके आए कि मुर्दों से भी पूछताछ की जा सकती है, शमशान में भी पूछताछ की जा सकती है, और अगर उससे भी मन न भरे तो यमराज से भी पूछताछ की जा सकती है। जब विपक्ष के लोगों को परेशान ही करना है तो आप 1 साल जेल में रखिए या पूरे जब तक आपका शासन है तब तक सबको पकड़ के जेल में रखिए, तो उससे क्या फर्क पड़ता है। देश के सबसे योग्य शिक्षा मंत्री को, जो लाखों बच्चों की शिक्षा देने का काम कर रहे हैं, उनका भविष्य बनाने का काम कर रहे हैं, एक अच्छे स्वास्थ्य मंत्री को, मनीष सिसोदिया और सत्येंद्र जैन को आपने पकड़ के जबरदस्ती जेल में रखा है और आपको लग रहा है कि आप बहुत बड़े सूरमा बन रहे हैं। तो ऐसा नहीं है कि लोग बेवकूफ हैं, इस बात को देखते हैं, समझते हैं और समय आने पे लोग जवाब देंगे। जनता बहुत समझदार है, वो जानती है कि आप क्या कर रहे हैं।
शुक्रिया संजय जी कि आप हमसे जुड़े। संजय सिंह फ्रॉम द आम आदमी पार्टी, राज्यसभा MP. Harish Khurana, I'll come back to you. You know, of what Sanjay Singh just said there, that you can continue, these are all, you know, it's a political witch hunt of sorts. Yesterday, you had Saurabh Bhardwaj who went ahead and said that there could actually be threat to Manish Sisodia's life. These are very grave allegations.
See, I was listening to Sanjay Singh abhi. He was saying, kal unko bail mil jati. Are you God? Are you above the law? Or you know what the law will say?
But Harish Khurana ji, one thing is clear, they seem to कुछ तो है, क्योंकि 2 घंटे पहले उन्होंने बोला था ED अरेस्ट करेगी और कर लिया.
Everybody knows. It was not new. Preeti, we all know that ED is investigating, and the things which was coming up in last 3-4 days, Kavita's inquiry, because this whole nexus has been exposed now. 100 crore rupees trail has been found. I feel from what is I'm seeing from the sources, कि 100 crore.
चलिए खुराना साहब, if everybody knows, ये आप भविष्यवाणी कर दीजिए, will Kavita be arrested on Saturday 11th? क्योंकि everybody knows, sir.
I'm not here to any bhavishwani, but what we are seeing from your media sources also saying that something trail has come up. That's the reason, and because ED was investigating since quite long now, they have got the proof. My point is something else. Why are these people are in so much hurry of giving the certificate of honesty themselves? Why they are so much hurry? Let the law will take their own course. 9 months before, पहले क्या हुआ सत्येंद्र जैन का? He's in court, he's in jail now. Since court order, not by the ED, not by the CBI, उस पे कुछ नहीं बोलेंगे. संजय सिंह भी उस पे कुछ नहीं बोले. They will not speak. He'll not utter a word. By the order of the court only, he was arrested now. Vijay Nair was denied a bail for last 4 times. He was a close aide. Remember what they used to say? कि गुजरात की इलेक्शन है, he's a key person. बीजेपी डर गई है. Since how many months he's in jail now? So my point is, let the court, law will take their own course. About the K Kavita, उनके कर्म सामने आएंगे, जो भी होगा, law will take their own course. अगर उन्होंने कांड किए होंगे तो होंगे. But one thing is for sure, what BJP is saying, that without Arvind Kejriwal's approval, patta bhi nahi hilta. So this investigation will surely lead to CM House one day for sure.
Will that happen at all? Well, we don't quite know that. But right now, what we do know and what we can break, and a battery of reporters and my colleagues and I are bringing this news to you, viewers, is that Manish Sisodia has now been arrested by the ED. We have tried to simplify it for you on why this arrest is way more complicated than a CBI arrest. I want to pull in our agency reporter, Munish Pandey, who's with me in the studio. Munish, what from here on? Because now you'll see, politically speaking, the Aam Aadmi Party build a narrative. We also saw a press conference by Ms. K. Kavita. Now, what is going to take place on the 11th? Because the ED is questioning Ms. K. Kavita.
Well, Preeti, as far as this case is concerned, both the agencies, Central Bureau of Investigation and ED, they are probing this matter parallelly. Manish Sisodia has been arrested. Tomorrow he'll be produced before the court. There are chances that he might get bail in the CBI case, but because now ED has arrested, ED will try to get custody of Mr. Manish Sisodia for next 14 days. It means that even if he is granted bail in the CBI case, he won't be coming out of the custody of ED or jail anytime soon, because even in ED case now he has to secure bail after he secures bail in CBI case. It means that for good amount of time, Manish Sisodia will be either in custody of ED or Tihar jail or both. Apart from that, on 11th, we have been given to understand is that when K. Kavita will present herself before the agency, she will be confronted with Arun Pillai. And why, according to ED, this confrontation is important? Because according to them, Arun Pillai is a person who, in a statement to Enforcement Directorate on December 11 last year, told the officials that he was working on behest of K. Kavita. He was representing K. Kavita in a company which had a stake of 65% in Indo Spirits. Indo Spirit is a company which was owned by accused Sameer Mahendru, and this entire acquisition and shareholding was only to generate benefits, profits under the new excise policy which was brought in by the Aam Aadmi Party. Apart from that, Arun Pillai in his statement to ED told that K. Kavita was part of a meeting with Vijay Nair where there was a discussion of recovery of 100 crore rupees of kickbacks which was given to Aam Aadmi Party for the formulation and bringing this excise policy. Because there are a certain amount of allegations by Arun Pillai against K. Kavita, they wanted to confront with Arun Pillai, and on 11th this confrontation will happen at the ED office. Arun Pillai is in ED custody till 13th, and that is why when there was a communication, K. Kavita wanted a week time, but there was a communication between the Enforcement Directorate and K. Kavita, in which both the parties, ED and K. Kavita, agreed that she will appear on 11th and confrontation will take place. As far as K. Kavita is concerned, trouble is mounting for her also, because ED claims that they have also evidence against K. Kavita.
Well, she did speak to us about an hour ago exclusively. We're going to try and play some of those reactions as well, because, it's interesting, viewers, because politically, if you see, there's a narrative that is being built by both the PRS and the Aam Aadmi Party that this is a clear witch hunt. First, the CBI swooped in. Now the ED has arrested Manish Sisodia, and it's all at the behest. This is what the Aam Aadmi Party and the BRS allege, all at the behest of the central government. But let's cut across right now to our reporters. Akshay Dongre joins us right outside Tihar jail. That is where the ED questioned Manish Sisodia for the second time today before they made that formal arrest. Today, of course, Manish Sisodia, Akshay, is going to be staying put at the Tihar jail. Tomorrow, optics-wise, yes, he's going to be produced for bail at the CBI court. Even if he gets bail by the CBI court, Manish Sisodia remains in jail, either, in all probabilities, in ED custody.
Well, absolutely, Preeti. As far as Manish Sisodia's stay is concerned, he will be spending the night in Tihar jail itself. That is because he was under judicial custody, and before the Enforcement Directorate gets a arrest warrant, production warrant, they cannot in fact take him out of Tihar jail and into their custody. So that is going to be the modus operandi right now. The Enforcement Directorate will be seeking a production warrant of Manish Sisodia. They will be taking him in their own custody, interrogating him about the money trail, confronting him with other accused, co-accused in this case, and other witnesses as well. So the Enforcement Directorate is actually going to step up their investigation, as Munish and Anisha, they have very brilliantly spoke to us about all the nuances about how CBI case is different from the Enforcement Directorate case, and their custodies are different as well. But what we are seeing right now essentially is that the noose is tightening as far as this investigation is concerned, and in all likelihood the Enforcement Directorate will be getting the custody, because as of now, from the evidences and from the looks of it, they have some strong evidences against Manish Sisodia. There was a thorough interrogation of Mr. Sisodia inside the Tihar jail, and that was after they had obtained an interrogation. They had obtained permission to interrogate Mr. Manish Sisodia inside Tihar jail itself. Today was the second day in 3 days, and now just ahead of his bail hearing that was scheduled for tomorrow, the Enforcement Directorate will be going to the court to seek a production warrant of Mr. Manish Sisodia, and that is going to start the interrogation by the Enforcement Directorate of Mr. Manish Sisodia, and after that it remains to be seen that what exactly is going to be the next step by the Enforcement Directorate as far as the case is concerned, whether they will be able to complete their interrogation within 14 days or before 14 days, but 14 days is maximum that they can get. And there is also a likelihood that there can be gaps in these interrogations as well. So there is a likelihood that the ED may seek about 5 to 6 days of Enforcement Directorate custody. Then they can again send him to judicial custody, and again the Enforcement Directorate can actually seek custody to interrogate further leads and evidences. So that is going to be a tough legal battle for Mr. Sisodia as far as the money laundering cases against him.
All right, so he stays put in Tihar jail tomorrow. Anisha, like you pointed out, by the basic perception of just the law in question, the ED case, way more complicated.
Definitely, Preeti. With the way the laws are structured. Now, remember, the CBI is looking into the corruption involved in this case. The CBI is looking into whether the liquor policy was deliberately changed, whether confidential documents of the government, that is the draft policy, were leaked out, whether there was a benefit given to certain liquor cartels, and whether people involved in this entire transaction received any kickbacks. So money laundering, as far as it is concerned, the ED is concerned, is looking into who gave the money, who received the money. As Manish and Akshay has been talking about, there are allegations about 100 crores worth of hawala transaction, of kickbacks from various cartels, including the South cartel, which is another political point that we have been seeing in the last few days, with the BRS also coming out and attacking the central government on this. We are also going to see how exactly the ED has traced the money, because remember, tomorrow morning, when the Enforcement Directorate officials come before the court of the special CBI judge, they will have to, beg your pardon, they will have to explain just why they could not investigate properly while questioning Mr. Sisodia in the jail. Why is it that they need his custodial interrogation? Who is it that they want to confront him with? And one of the arguments that the Aam Aadmi Party lawyers have been making before the court is that you cannot keep somebody under arrest simply because they are not giving you the answers exactly as you want. So we'll have to see how it plays out tomorrow.
Well, we'll have to see how it pans out. We are also getting in Akshay Marathe from the Aam Aadmi Party, but let's cut across right now to Mr. Khurana, Harish Khurana, who has to leave, is what I'm being given to understand. But Mr. Khurana, there's one narrative that is being built there, and that narrative is that this is a witch hunt by the Aam Aadmi Party, alleging that where the BJP is concerned. The narrative that you're trying to build, away from what the agencies are doing, is that this is a narrative to discredit the governance of Arvind Kejriwal. Ultimately, it's a fight of these two perceptions, sir.
See, this narrative has been built, they are trying to build this quite long, At the time of the arrest of the Satyadev Jain also, the same narrative was being built, that we are witch hunt, we are the innocent people, Aam Aadmi Party are the Kattar Imandar log. But what has happened, again I'm saying, since last 9 months on the order of the court, not by the order of the ED or not by the order of the CBI, he's in jail since last 9 months. And what the court order says that time, prima facie there is something which leads to corruption. That is the court remark. If you have seen the court proceeding that time, and pad pe rehna chahiye, nahi rehna chahiye, this was a strong remark which has been given by court that time also. So my point is, let the law will take the own course. Why Aam Aadmi Party is building a narrative that of a witch hunting and giving a self-certificate to...
Sir, you've been also, because there is no spokesperson right now, the BJP is also trying to build the narrative way before even the agencies came in. Right now, these are allegations. They need to be proven in a court of law.
See, I still remember at the time, because I was putting an RTIs that time, and things happened immediately when these policy was being made. I mean, blacklisted company was given the tenders. I mean, you have changed the policy. Recommendation of the policy, whatever recommendation has been given by the people, you have changed that policy. This has came out from the RTIs only. And when I filed the RTI and I got the replies, these were replies which were given in. And I complained to the excise department. But no action was being taken. Indosprit, Samir Mahindru's company, that Khao Gali company, was exposed by me only that time. Because they were a blacklisted company. Wholesale company was not allowed. So wholesale company was not allowed in the retail sector. That time I exposed the papers. I complained to excise.
Akshay Marathe, with what Mr. Harish Khurana says, that listen, your time is up. The CBI is investigating. The ED has made the arrest. Mr. Sisodia now is in for the long haul, and the buck will stop at the doorstep of the Chief Minister, is what the BJP says.
Preeti, my question to the BJP is that all these things that their spokespersons come and say on television, why is it that the CBI is not able to say these things in the court of law? We've seen what has happened in the bail hearings of Mr. Manish Sisodia. In fact, tomorrow, the CBI had listed his hearing for bail, and it was widely expected that he will get bail because the CBI had stopped questioning Mr. Sisodia. The CBI went to court and said, "We have nothing more to ask Mr. Sisodia. There is no witness confrontation that will happen with Mr. Sisodia." So now it was obvious that he was going to get bail tomorrow. But the modus operandi of this vindictive and persecutory government is that they want to keep Mr. Sisodia in jail indefinitely. And that's why today, when they were aware that tomorrow he was going to be sent out of jail, they have arrested him using another agency. This is the
I'll
mockery
come to you,
of
sir. Let him finish.
democracy and the justice system that the BJP has been doing repeatedly. This is not the first time. This is exactly what they did with Satyendra Jain, our health minister, as well. And Mr. Jain has been in jail for the last 8 or 9 months. These are two ministers who were the most high-performing ministers in the Aam Aadmi Party government, who have made the country proud by displaying their education.
Akshay Marathe, Satyendra Jain's case is very different than what Manish Sisodia's case is. You know that better than I.
I'm talking about the modus operandi where the CBI first arrests. They have no evidence to continue keeping those people in jail. So when the court is about to give
Satyendra Jain was arrested by the ED.
To
begin with,
that is what has happened today. The ED
you're correlating Vijay Nayar's case. You're correlating Vijay Nayar's case. Because Satyendra Jain was first arrested by the ED alone.
Preeti, is it not true that Mr. Manish Sisodia had a bail hearing coming up tomorrow in the CBI court? Is that true or not?
Okay.
If that is true, then why is it that the ED is arresting him one day before the bail hearing?
Okay, Akshay Marathe say. Mr. Khurana sir, you have had free run. Abhi, he's just joined. Let him have finish and then I'll come to you. Okay, finish. Mr. Marathe, finish.
Yeah.
Is it not the case that if the ED has arrested him one day before the CBI was going to give him bail, is it not clear that the only
Harish Khurana, quickly come in for a rebuttal and I'm closing the show.
Preeti, remember 3 months back when CBI did it for the first time? They were given a certificate कि हमें CBI has given a clean sheet, कुछ नहीं मिला जी. Now, again, what they have arrested now, अब मिल गया. Point is, the investigation was on since quite long, and now if CBI thinks that there's a right time to arrest him, they have arrested him. And
Akshay Marathe, answer, closing the show. 20 seconds, Akshay Marathe. Go ahead.
Preeti, the CBI had no evidence against him. Even in the court, the CBI admitted, which is why tomorrow he was going to get bail. This is not something I am saying. The court is saying this.
Okay.
The BJP is so shameless that they are using another agency to hide the CBI's inefficacy.
Okay, gentlemen, I appreciate both of you for joining us and all our reporters. And, you know, we don't like doing it, but we'll say it, that we got it first, viewers. We got it first with what the Aam Aadmi Party said 2 hours ago, where they said there's going to be an arrest. And when the arrest took place, we were the first one to break it. My colleague Manish Pandey sitting right next to me. With that, thank you all for joining us. Up next is Rahul Kaval.
India Today Conclave 2023, March 17th and 18th, New Delhi. Listen to P. Chidambaram, Amitabh Kant, Neelkant Mishra, PTR Tyagarajan, Anil Agarwal. The India Moment.
Got a call from somebody from TVS and they said, you know, we're looking at having you on board. Next thing I know is they've decided to launch me as the first racer in 33 years of TVS racing. See, when I started riding motorcycles, I mean, now when I think of it, I wonder how I did that because I didn't have, we didn't back then have this concept of, you know, gears, and we just ride motorcycles, you know, we just be extremely callous about it. I never saw motorsport as with a gender bias at all. I mean, I never saw it as the guy is able to, it's at the end of the day, you're able to race better than me. So, or I'm able to race better than you. it is important to first skill up, to first know your motorcycle in and out, to be one with it, and then you start exploring the style of racing you want to get into. And I figured dirt always, had my heart. So I focused more on off-roading and a lot of trails and that kind of riding. My first race, I was the only woman on the race, and some 59 boys or something. So that was very intimidating at the time, and also for people at the time to open up to this idea of, women in motorsport. Motorsport, then, it is a physically demanding sport. But at the end of the day, it's about learning the skill. So it doesn't have to do with man, woman. It doesn't have to do with a lot of people I've come across that think because they're short, they may not be able to comfortably ride a motorcycle, or because they feel like they won't be able to handle the weight of the motorcycle. But all of that is because you haven't got yourself to try it. So it's only intimidating until you try it, until you do it the first time. I think it has always been more of a mind game, because physically, of course, we prepare to be fit and to be able to handle, hours of riding and handle the terrain. But mental fitness is, that is something that's very, very important.
INS Vikrant is out and sailing, but the Indian Navy feels it needs more. After Vikrant, many believe this is the right time. It's been a big boost to self-reliance.
We are now looking at all our ships to be built in India. As of today, 43 ships and submarines are on order, and out of which 41 are being built in India. Okay, so that is the scale at which we are pursuing Atmanirbharta.
The Indian Navy inducted its first indigenous aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant, last year. With an aircraft carrier of its own, India is now part of a select and small band of just 7 countries. That's the US, UK, France, Russia, Italy and China that have the niche capability to design and build its very own aircraft carrier. India now has 2 functional aircraft carriers, INS Vikrant and the Russian origin INS Vikramaditya. The Indian Navy has been insisting on a 3rd aircraft carrier in the wake of Chinese forays into the Indian Ocean region. But the Indian Navy ideally wants a superior carrier as the 2nd indigenous model. With the proposed name INS Vishal, that simply means massive. It was proposed to be a 65,000-ton warship with a capacity to accommodate more aircraft on board, but that project is on hold due to ongoing budgetary constraints. In the interim, the Indian Navy is looking at certain other options. Sources say the Navy wants the IAC-2 or Indian Aircraft Carrier 2 to be superior in size and design that could accommodate more aircraft and possibly be propelled by a nuclear reactor. The Indian Navy estimates 50,000 crore as the life cycle cost and a lifespan of about 30 to 40 years. Otherwise, the cost would be about 35,000 crore rupees, which is also on the higher side. Vikrant, India's very own aircraft carrier, cost 20,000 crore rupees. A repeat order of a Vikrant is Plan B to make sure there are 3 aircraft carriers, 2 always functioning and 1 in maintenance or repair, says a Navy official privy to developments.
Presented by RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, Growing Legacies. Co-presented by Century Ply, आग से बचाए.
Co-presented by
Macho Hand, बड़े आराम से. Co-powered by Sera, this is your space, play it your way.
Good evening and welcome. You're watching the news track. I'm Rahul Kamal. As Congress MP Rahul Gandhi sparks a big debate about the state of democracy in India, we ask, is Indian democracy under threat or is it the Congress party itself which is facing an existential threat? That furious political face-off is my top focus on the news track.
The solution is going to come from inside. It's not going to come from outside.
Democracy raga triggers big storm.
A government simply does not allow any idea of the opposition, any concept of the opposition.
Furor over the foreign hand. BJP guns for Rahul Gandhi. Democracy in danger or Congress? Explosive news track showdown coming up.
Through his 2-week tour of the United Kingdom, Rahul Gandhi declared that democracy in India had died. He even called for the foreign hand. which triggered a massive political firestorm back home. As Rahul fought the democracy crisis overseas, back home, many have been wondering if his attack on the state of India's democracy will help or hurt the Congress party.
So the surprising thing is that the so-called defenders of democracy, which are the United States, European countries, seem to just be oblivious that a huge chunk of the democratic model has come undone, right? Which is a real problem.
And if that wasn't enough, he followed it up with this.
Rahul, walk in the parliament.
The huge amount of inequality that is erupting in the West and in India is a threat to the democratic idea. We have to think about that. We have to have a strategy for that. That's not on the table.
No two comments have exploded more violently from Rahul Gandhi's tour of the United Kingdom. The de facto leader of India's oldest political party almost plainly calling for outside intervention to save what he sees as India's dying democracy.
How would you react if democracy suddenly disappeared in Europe? Right? You'd be shocked and you'd be like, oh my God, that's a massive blow to democracy. Well, how would you react if something, a structure 3.5 times Europe suddenly went non-democratic? Right? That's happened already. So the surprising thing is that the so-called defenders of democracy, which are the United States, European countries, seem to just be oblivious that a huge chunk of the democratic model has come undone, right? Which is a real problem.
The perplexing call for a proverbial foreign hand has understandably triggered a political firestorm.
विदेशी दोस्त हों, विदेशी एजेंसियां हों, विदेशी चैनल हों या फिर विदेशी जमी हो, किसी का भी दुरुपयोग करके भारत को बदनाम करने का कोई मौका नहीं छोड़ रहे। मुझे लगता है अपनी नाकामियों को छिपाने के लिए एक सुनियोजित तरीके से विदेशी सरजमीन से राहुल गांधी जी ने भारत को बदनाम करने का ठेका ले रखा है।
You cannot blame Rahul ji for that, because Rahul ji knows that in India nobody will hear him. So who will hear him? Only anti-India people. So he has collected a bunch of anti-India people in London and he talked to them. But so far as India is concerned, India will not hear Rahul today, or India will not hear Rahul even day after tomorrow.
A union minister went as far as to invoke the unkind moniker that Rahul Gandhi is labelled with. If Rahul Gandhi wanted political and media traction, he most certainly got it with his call for outside intervention, even if he made this minor clarification.
It's our problem, right? It's an internal problem. It's an Indian problem. And the solution is going to come from inside. It's not going to come from outside.
But zooming out from Rahul's week-long tour of the UK brings into contrast a separate question. Is democracy in danger, or is it the Congress party that's in danger? The Congress's dismal performance in 2023's first set of polls in 3 big northeast states, the first election test since the end of Rahul's high-profile Bharat Jodo Yatra, should come as the first big alarm bell, an indicator that nothing has changed in the Congress's languishing battle readiness. Bereft of a distinct Rahul Gandhi footprint, the Congress has been hesitant to flaunt momentum after the Himachal Pradesh victory. All eyes will now be on the Rahul Congress in the crucial Karnataka election test next. But with the big 2024 fight getting nearer every day, the Congress's palace of woes haven't reduced. Rahul still hasn't fixed the leadership war in Rajasthan, a state that goes to polls this year. And while Mallikarjun Kharge was elected Congress president last year, there are no illusions about just who the party boss is. A question few within the Congress have the stomach for, especially after the G23 debacle, is a faint echo in the face of the reloaded Rahul enterprise. 2023 is peppered with big poll battles, and they will incrementally answer the question, who's really in danger, democracy or the Congress party? Bureau Report, India Today.
Congress MP Rahul Gandhi on British soil asking for European and American intervention in saving Indian democracy. Is Indian democracy really under threat, or is the Congress party facing an existential threat? And is Rahul in his head interchanging the threat to the Congress and linking it to what he perceives as the threat to India's democracy? To talk about this, I am joined on the news track by a key aide of Rahul Gandhi heading the Congress's social media operations, Supriya Srinath. With us, the man leading the charge on the part of the BJP against Rahul Gandhi asking for foreign intervention on India's parliament, on India's democracy. Amit Malviya is with us on this broadcast. For how this is playing out in Europe, internationally and in India, Sushant Sareen, leading strategic affairs expert, joins us, as does Sanjay Jha, who's been in and out of the Congress, and Swati Chaturvedi, well-known political analyst. I want to start by getting Supriya Srinath to explain why Rahul Gandhi seeking American, European intervention in saving India's democracy is something you think is correct, because ordinarily, if there is a challenge to our democracy, it ought to be fought from within the country. You don't have Indian democratic leaders going abroad and saying, come and help us. This is almost like calling on a foreign country to do your job. You should be fighting for our democracy. If you think there's anything wrong with the way Prime Minister Modi and Amit Malviya and the BJP are running this government, why are you asking for American and European help? Supriya Srinath, let's start from there.
It's quite ridiculous and actually very shameless and brazen for large sections of the BJP, and I'm saying large sections, to turn into 2 rupee trolls, distort Mr. Gandhi's versions, speak blatant lies, and for some sections of the media to amplify it without even putting their minds and fact checking it. And with your kind permission, I think let the man speak for himself. I will play a 35-second bite of Shri Rahul Gandhi and exactly what he has said. Before I go any further, Rahul, I had always thought that the BJP struggled with putting Hindi out because that's what they were doing. They were distorting the truth during the Bharat Jodo Yatra. It seems they struggle with translations in English as well. What else explains a perfectly banal statement made actually about putting Indian democracy, calling it a public good, at the center, and the BJP making a hue and cry about it? And I hate to say this, some of the people who represent the BJP here or otherwise are actually acting like 2 rupee trolls. They have been called out time and again for spreading fake news, and they continue to do so because that is what their whole existence is all about. And I will seek your indulgence for 35 seconds as I play this bite, because this bite needs to go to the people and for the people to understand such blatant lies being peddled by fake news, fake news departments of the BJP and some sections of the media. Just seeking your indulgence, please, because this is important that people should know what exactly had he said.
Well, it's our problem, right? It's an internal problem. It's an Indian problem. And the solution is going to come from inside. It's not going to come from outside.
And he goes on to say that 1.4 billion people inhabit the Indian democratic system, and the fate of our democracy is going to determine the fate of democracies on the planet. He's putting India right at the center of democratic values, and people have an issue with it. I really want to understand. Do they not understand English? Are they failing to translate into Hindi? What's really happening here?
You've set the context for this debate, and you've also done what you're accusing the BJP of doing, which is playing one part of the comment, because he does go on to say that Europe and the United States aren't doing enough when Indian democracy in danger. So he said both things, but let's get Amit Malviya to respond. The Congress's charge is that you've used one part of the statement where he says Europe and the US are not doing enough for Indian democracy, and you aren't showing the initial part where he says the work has to happen within our country as well. So it's not as if he's only calling for their help. He's trying to draw the world's attention to what he thinks are failing institutional standards in our country. It's something that, as somebody in the opposition, he has a right to be concerned about, and you're only quoting him in part. Mr. Malviya, let's start from there.
Well, Rahul, the elitist scorn that the Congress spokesperson heaped on the BJP for not understanding English is quite rich, because if the Congress spokespeople have to routinely step in to clarify what Rahul Gandhi said, then it is a problem with his communication and not with BJP's understanding. Let me counter a clip by another clip, and this clip is of Rahul Gandhi. He said this at the International Journals Association meeting. What the Congress is quoting is a subsequent bite of his from the Chatham House discussion that happened later, when they realized the faux pas that Rahul Gandhi had committed. Let me play that out for your audience, because a clip should be countered with a clip.
So the surprising thing is that the so-called defenders of democracy, which are the United States, European countries, seem to just be oblivious that a huge chunk of the democratic model has come undone, right? Which is the real problem. Rahul Gandhi, what happens to you?
Let me also play another clip, Rahul, that he spoke in the Parliament of Britain, and he was addressing a group of MPs.
Is a global public good. India is big enough where if democracy is weakened in India, democracy is weakened on the planet. So I think it's very important when you think about what is happening in India, you also keep in mind that India is a democracy 3 times the size of the United States, 3 times the size of Europe, and if this democracy crumbles, it will be a huge setback for democracy on the planet.
So here is Rahul Gandhi making that plea twice, once when he was interacting with a group of journalists, and then on another occasion when he was addressing some members of the British Parliament. Now, when you say something like this to a bunch of parliamentarians, you are by extension appealing to the government of Britain to interfere in the internal matters of India. Now, as far as democracy in India is concerned, clearly there's nothing wrong with it. We have a functioning democracy. We have electoral process, we have the judiciary, we have the executive that is doing its job, and the Congress is still relevant in a few states. But for Rahul Gandhi to step out of the country and seek intervention of foreign powers in India's internal matters and to seek restoration of democracy is a serious problem. Now, this is probably for the first time, Rahul, that somebody from the Congress party has been so brazen and has walked down this path and sought foreign intervention. We'd heard about Indira Gandhi seek financial support from foreign agencies, but this is another level. And clearly for Rahul Gandhi to make these assertions, to undermine India's institution, undermine India's parliament, which incidentally he does not attend too often, and then to make statements that opposition voices being stifled and that people are not able to speak and there is a perception of minorities being under threat on the day the BJP wins in states like Nagaland and Meghalaya, which is almost 85-90% minority dominated and a huge tribal population. So there is something very problematic about Rahul Gandhi's understanding of
Amit Malviya's counter is
articulation, and it raises several questions.
Rahul Gandhi's track record as a parliament, that's abysmal. The Congress's record in the recent northeastern states was abysmal. Yes, there is an existential threat to the Congress, but let's not equate that with challenges before India's democracy. There are always challenges before any democratic system. That is inherent to the nature of any democracy. But Rahul, going abroad, asking for, he's basically saying India is becoming non-democratic, democracy has been undone, he's feeling shocked at the lack of reaction in Europe and the United States, seeking international intervention in India's internal matters. When you were in government and somebody else did this, you'd be aghast with what the opposition has done. Why is Rahul Gandhi doing this?
No, so before I answer your question, I first want to put on record how weird it is for me to hear from someone who was flagged off by social media platforms for spreading fake news. You know, my counterpart in the BJP has had several flag offs. बहुत बार इनको ट्विटर ने बोला ये मैनिपुलेटेड ट्वीट्स चलाते हैं, ये झूठ के सरगना है और मैं इनके मुंह पर बोल रही हूं, ऐसा करना बंद कर दीजिए। आप भाजपा के ऑफिशियल हैं, ऐसा करके आप दिखाते हैं कि आप झुट्टों के सरदार हैं। और मैं हिंदी में इसलिए बोल रही हूं क्योंकि उनको मेरा स्टेटमेंट एलिटिस्ट लगा था। मैंने तो हिंदी में भी बोला कि आप भारत जोड़ो यात्रा के हिंदी को भी
can I request both our guests not to get personal, please? Ma'am, we're debating ideas here. We're debating this demand.
No, one second. I have an issue with that. One second, Rahul. One second. Don't lecture me. No, Rahul, 1 second.
I'm not lecturing you. I'm just saying, let's just focus on ideas. Let's focus on contesting views of whether international help is required or not. Let's stick to that. Yes.
Rahul, don't. No. You can't put words into my mouth. I'm here to speak a certain line that I will take. You can ask me to leave your channel, but I will say what I have come prepared to say and what I will say. And one of those things is that the person sitting here has been flagged off by social media platforms for spreading fake news. I want to actually play a counter clip. Forget about everything else. Let's play this counter clip so that people get to know who says what when they are on foreign soil. Please listen to this.
देशों के मुखिया इतना आत्मीयता, इतनी निकटता, इतना भाईचारा ये अपने आप में
Prime Minister of India on China, but that's not the cherry. The cherry on the cake is this. Please hear it. Because this is what the Prime Minister said about the country and our people when he was on foreign soil, and foreign soil no less than China. Please hear this.
छोड़ो यार, डूब गए, कुछ होगा नहीं। अरे भगवान बचाए भाई, पता नहीं पिछले जन्म में क्या पाप किएगा, हम हिंदुस्तान में पैदा हुए हैं।
The Prime Minister of this country, elected by people of this country, representing 140 crore Indians, including you and I, goes to China and says that people used to curse their luck and their destiny because they were born in India. You think this is glorifying the country? And actually saying that America and China are pulling the world in two different directions and Indian democracy is a public good. And we are what the world wants, espousing Mahatma and talking about the values of our constitution in foreign land, telling the British press, telling the British people. You think that's wrong? I am appalled. I am absolutely appalled by the level to which the BJP can stoop to demean Rahul Gandhi. But guess what? Every time you do that, I'm convinced about one thing. Rahul, 1 second. I'm absolutely convinced about one thing. The lower they stoop, the more Rahul Gandhi rattles the living daylights.
Okay, the essence of your counter is even when BJP leaders have been abroad, when they were in opposition, they have lambasted
that's not the essence of my counter.
Dysfunctional Indian system,
and they have out of them are rattled by Rahul Gandhi.
And that they've said all kinds of things about what was wrong with the Indian system. This is what you expect from a leader of the opposition. He's not going to go to the British Parliament or to Europe and to tell them how great India is. He's in the opposition. He will very naturally find fault. Just deal with it, live with it.
Prime Minister, which is even worse.
Okay, you've cited instances of other leaders doing this in the past as well. Let Mr. Malviya respond.
Rahul, I'm not going to scream and shout and level allegations at the conduct of the Congress spokesperson because she's a foul-mouthed, uncouth woman and everybody knows about it, but I can't stoop down to her level. So I'll stick to substantive issue. And the substantive issue here is Rahul Gandhi and his incoherent speech.
Fader goes down.
Rahul Gandhi has to be interpreted and reinterpreted again and again by their spokespeople or people aligned to them. There's clearly a problem with Rahul Gandhi's articulation. Secondly, she quoted the Prime Minister's speech. Now let me make the distinction between what the Prime Minister said and what Rahul Gandhi said. The Prime Minister was speaking to the Indian diaspora. The Indian diaspora has a stake in India's well-being and progress. He was speaking about the despondent times of UPA when there were scams worth crores of rupees and there was no one who was held account to. Therefore, for him to speak about the situation of governance back home is not the same as Rahul Gandhi going to the British Parliament and pleading to the members there to save India's democracy because it is not delivering in favor of the Congress party or Rahul Gandhi. It is not the same as seeking intervention of Europe and America. To speak to the Indian diaspora is the right of any political leader, whether he's a prime minister or prime minister wannabe, but to go to sovereign countries and seek intervention are two quite different things. And let's be very clear, Rahul Gandhi here is in violation of the oath that he has taken as Member of Parliament, which says specifically that he would uphold the sovereignty and integrity of the country. He has compromised that by his utterances, which are really not thought through. But having said that, I think it's become quite a routine to have Rahul Gandhi go out and say all kinds of things which embarrass the country, which naturally do not put him in good state himself. But it's something that we have to live with because the Congress insists on foisting him on the country. The country continues to reject him. Now, the rejection that he has been handed out not once but twice and several times in several electoral contests, he must learn to accept that people have rejected him. Rahul Gandhi is Congress's problem, not the country's problem. So he can make his argument, he can speak for his ideas, but he cannot seek foreign intervention.
That's an important counter from Amit Malviya. He's saying you can berate how the government is functioning, and that's totally legitimate. You can be wherever in the world and say that the Indian government isn't doing a good job. The difference is Rahul Gandhi is seeking international intervention in India's affairs. That's the last thing you want.
Are you seriously saying that?
He's basically saying that.
I am appalled. You know, Rahul,
he's saying the lack of reaction of Europe and the United States. One second. He's saying, ma'am, I'm just, okay, go on. He's saying, I'm feeling shocked at the lack of reaction in the United States and EU. It's because of trade interests that they're not saying anything about this.
Mr. Kaval.
Yes, ma'am.
I get that. Rahul, I'm actually more dismayed by you than Mr. Amit Malviya right now. Amit Malviya's life and existence depends on defaming Rahul Gandhi. I can't imagine that you just said it's all right to defame political parties and opponents when on foreign
I'm not saying defame. I'm saying you want to attack them, go ahead. He's asking for European and American intervention. That's the argument.
Let me just finish. Please let me finish. Let me finish. Do not intervene. You heard him. Absolutely abject silence. Offer me the same silence.
Sure,
that's the courtesy I expect from you as an anchor.
Certainly.
I am dismayed, and I will use the word dismayed and I will use the word appalled with the inference that you're drawing. You are actually saying that Mr. Modi is absolutely right with what he said on foreign soil. Mr. Modi saying what has happened in 70 years, nothing has happened. A lost decade. Mr. Modi saying people in India cursed their destiny because they were born here. Are you saying this is all right for India's Prime Minister to say this in foreign land? If you are, then there is no debate. If you are, there is already a jaundiced view and a judgment that you have already passed, and I don't think this debate needs to happen. I made a very simple assertion. Mr. Malviya can either say yes or no to that. Has he been flagged off by social media platforms for spreading fake news? Yes or no? The answer to that is a yes. He gets personal, calls me uncouth, calls me foul mouth, calls me stooping down to my level. You have no objections. Forget about all of that. This is not personal. The reality is Mr. Gandhi delivered his lecture on the 28th of February. We are speaking on the 9th of March. 9 दिन से ये लगे हुए बेचारे, इनके पास कोई काम ही नहीं है और करने का. You talk to them about high prices, they will say हम लहसुन प्याज नहीं खाते. Talk to them about unemployment, पकौड़े तल्लो. Talk to them about China, nobody has entered our territory. Talk to them about Adani with trembling hands, he will keep having water because gala sook raha hai. The reality is you can keep looking the other way, but you are a government that jails a 21-year-old climate activist. How can you talk about democracy? You are a government that raids a research institute. You are a government that puts a man behind bars because he as a journalist tried to put out a story where मिर्जापुर में लोग नमक रोटी खा रहे थे. आप यहाँ पर आकर एक्सेंट में अंग्रेजी बतियाइएगा और हम आपकी बात सुनेंगे, ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता है. असलियत ये है कि इस देश के कानून व्यवस्था के खिलवाड़ आप कर रहे हैं. The reality also is that the Supreme Court of this country has passed an order, a judgment, which says that the election commissioner and the chief election commissioner will be
no, but that's what you're citing as a problem is actually evidence of the fact that democratic institutions are alive. The fact that the Supreme Court comes out with this kind of an order against the government of the day shows that you must have much greater faith. You must have much greater faith in India's institutions than you do.
Please read the judgment. I am hoping and presuming as news director of the India Today group, you have read the judgment. The judgment says words like unsatiable thirst for hunger.
Of all governments, of anyone who is in power. This is once again, I've read that judgment, and the judgment is very clear.
Came up until now?
Because the case went to the case went to the court now, and the judges very clearly say that this is. I'm not holding. Once again. I'm not holding the brief for any party. Once again, just fade us go down. We hold no faith. Once again, we just ran an investigation just a couple of days ago, which had one section very upset. We hold no brief for no one. It's as simple as that. But to have an Indian leader asking for external intervention is a matter that needs to be debated. There can be no doubt about it. And the Supreme Court judges are very clear. They say anyone in power, it's not true for government A, B or C, anyone in power would want election commissioners who are favorable to them, which is what the Supreme Court judgment says as a fact, not as an opinion. But let's go back to Amit Malviya on the substance of Supriya Shinde's response, which is that if Rahul Gandhi is as useless as you claim that he is, why are you spending so much time, energy, ammunition attacking him? You've been attacking him since the time he went there. If he is as big a disaster and is as much of a blessing for your party, just let him be. Why are senior leaders, you yourself, Ravi Shankar Prasad, so many others constantly attacking him? Mr. Malviya.
You know, I thought this debate was about Rahul Gandhi and the statement that he made, but I see the Congress spokesperson is more interested in discussing me than defending her boss, which essentially is equating me to her boss. While I find it flattering, but I hate this comparison with Rahul Gandhi because I think he's daft. And that is why he's gone ahead and made these kind of statements and repeatedly at it. Secondly, Rahul, let me explain to the folks from Congress what a functioning democracy actually is. A functioning democracy is where there is a conversation between the legislature and the judiciary. So if the judiciary has come up with a certain ruling and the central government accepts it, unlike the Congress party which routinely overturned judgments of the Supreme Court to have its way, we haven't done so. That is a functioning democracy. A functioning democracy means there are elections, and if you lose at the hustings, that is your problem because people do not relate to or identify with your ideas or your leadership. The problem is not with Rahul Gandhi. The problem is that the Congress is trying to thrust Rahul Gandhi on this country, and the country does not want him as somebody on the helm. And if, I repeat again myself, if the Congress has to continuously defend Rahul Gandhi's statement, use other speeches that he made at different times to cover up for his faux pas, then clearly he's not somebody who's even fit to be in public discourse. Okay. I repeat again, Rahul Gandhi is the Congress's problem. He is not India's problem, and Rahul Gandhi must understand that the choice that 600 people have made is Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And from what it looks like, and going by desperation of Rahul Gandhi, it seems that he will face a resounding defeat in 2024 again.
Okay.
I mean, God forbid,
we'll come to the 2024 elections
at that time,
in some time.
Managing himself and conducting himself is absolutely unacceptable.
I want to zoom out and go across to the other panelists. I'll start by asking Sanjay Jha for his views on this because you've heard from the BJP and the Congress counter attack on each other on the issue of whether Rahul is in the right and the wrong. You've been tracking politics for a long time. Does it appear odd to you that Rahul Gandhi goes out, asks for European and American help in saving India's democracy? Sanjay?
Rahul, not at all. We live in a global village. This program, when it is uploaded on YouTube, will be watched by my brother in New York, by my cousin in London, by my friend in Tokyo, by my associates of the past in New Zealand and somebody in Haiti. What's a big deal? I mean, how can you expect him to be inconsistent? When during the Bharat Jodo Yatra and over the last several years, Rahul Gandhi and the opposition, by the way, has questioned the authoritarian, manifestations of this government. You want him to go to London and suddenly say, no, Indian democracy is in fantastic health when The Economist has called India a flawed democracy? When you have the Freedom Index talking about India actually becoming an elected autocracy? You think that the BJP spokesperson here, who talks about foreign intervention, can I give him one example of what that is? That was the most brazen, blatant misdemeanor in global politics. you had the Prime Minister of India endorsing an incumbent president of the United States by saying, "Ab ki bar Trump Sarkar," and this is during an election year in America. I mean, you cannot reach a lower denominator in terms of foreign policy that Mr. Modi demonstrated. The critical point, Rahul, that we need to understand here, that end of day, Rahul Gandhi is in the UK, but nobody is stopping the Indian Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, the Prime Minister of the world's largest democracy, for 9 years. Not a single press conference other than a few choreographed TV interviews that nobody takes seriously at all. So that is the problem that the BJP has. And I think Rahul Gandhi, I've been critical of him over the last couple of years in terms of some leadership decisions. But you have to take your hats off to the fact that he spoke with a cool, calm demeanor. And I'll call the bluff of the BJP here on your show. The debate on which he talks about the US and the UK and other democracies not commenting on India is linked to the BBC episode. Now, let me tell you what has been written in the worldwide media. And by the way, New York Times and the BBC taking on their own government. The debate has been that when the income tax in India raided the BBC, Mr. Sunak kept silent. And the US president and the entire State Department actually chose to be, typically diplomatic template, we want to not comment on it at this point. I think Rahul's context of the telling the other governments that, are you even aware of what's going on in this country, is not intervention. It's about actually abdicating your diplomatic responsibility just because you're getting some commercial and probably
so let's hear from Sushant Sarin. Your argument is that because there are commercial interests, because India is a rising power, therefore the countries in Europe, the United States, not taking on India in the way that they would in the past. And Rahul Gandhi is entitled to draw the world's attention to what he thinks is wrong with India's democracy. He's in the opposition, that's his job. I hold him back from doing his job. Sushant Sarin.
Rahul, I don't think anybody has any problem with Rahul Gandhi going and talking about Indian democracy, even if in disparaging terms. I think the problem which many people among us have is precisely the fact that you have raised, that he is seeking intervention. He is seeking a kind of an intervention. Why are you guys so quiet? Why are you not doing something about it? What does he expect them to do about it? Frankly, the Western media, yes, has been unremittingly hostile and in some cases very unfairly so. For example, on the entire COVID crisis, did the Western countries handle it really well? I don't think so. Were there not dead bodies in truck trailers out there? Did they ever photograph it the way they photographed the scenes of Shamshan Ghats? So there has been a sustained attack on this government, which is okay, which is fair enough, right? One doesn't have a problem with that. But to say that, the world needed Mr. Rahul Gandhi to go out there and inform them what is happening in India is to actually attribute to them a level of ignorance, which I think is not entirely correct, because most of those countries have functioning missions in India, which obviously would be filing daily reports. Now, clearly those countries would be seeing, and their embassies would be reporting to them, that yes, Mr. Gandhi did a Bharat Jodo Yatra. He walked the entire length of the country. Was he stopped anywhere? Was there any obstacle put in his path? Was he not free to speak out there? He goes to Britain and he says that my voice is shut. I cannot go to a university in India and speak. How many universities has he gone to in India and actually spoken to students out here? That's a fact, right? Do you think all of those things are simply brushed under the carpet? But having said that, I must say one thing, that there is a battle of perceptions about this government outside India. And I think the strategic communications of this government have been very clumsy, to say the least, in the sense that some of the impressions which many of those countries have gained need to be dispelled and the truth needs to be brought out. For example, on the BBC documentary, my issue is not so much that it was a hit job on what happened in Gujarat, because you could do a documentary on a riot after riot after riot under the Congress dispensation, and I can recount them to you. Moradabad, Meerut, Maliana, Bhiwandi, Bombay, Bhagalpur. I could rattle off one after another, right? Indian democracy was safe at that point of time. How come? there was single party domination for many, many years, for many decades, in fact. Indian democracy was safe. How come? Journalists were put in prison. There were gag orders on journalists, on the press during many occasions in the previous era.
It's quite bizarre.
Yet democracy was safe. So the point is that, there is an argument which this government needs to make, and it has been very clumsy in making that argument.
Okay.
But to say that democracy is in danger simply because one particular party is unable to win elections and another party is dominating the political scene right now, and that might not last forever.
Sushant Sarin's argument, Swati, is that one party is winning again and again, one party is losing again and again, which is why the party that's losing is seeing everything wrong with Indian democracy. If they were to win in a state like Himachal, or if they win any state election in the next few months, at that time democracy wouldn't be in danger. When the Supreme Court comes out and says the EC's functioning needs to change, then democracy is not in danger. Otherwise, when things aren't going their way, that's when Rahul Gandhi thinks Indian democracy needs foreign intervention. Swati Chaturvedi.
Look, Rahul, I hold no brief for Rahul Gandhi. I've often criticized him. But here on this particular thing, I think it's, what Mr. Malviya said, it's a very artificial distinction that what Mr. Modi was doing was talking to the Indian diaspora. I mean, what Mr. Modi said was unacceptable. What Rahul Gandhi has said, I don't know what the context is, I find unacceptable, and I think Rahul Gandhi should really stop ad-libbing. He's gotten into a lot of trouble, a lot of hot water, always because he seems to just, speak off the cuff. Now, it is today, the way the country is, why the fact that Mr. Modi has not held a press conference for 9 years. He's the only Prime Minister in India's history not to do so. Even I.K. Gujral held press conference, even Deve Gowda held press conference. So, this is a huge thing. And as members of the media, we should all be questioning all of this. The fact that there is a perception crisis of this government outside is very clear. And because of reasons like this, Mr. Modi will not have a press conference. The government will, shut down institutions like CPR. All of this is not, democracy is a common good. It's a global good. So Rahul Gandhi going out and talking about it, and do we expect him to be Mr. Modi's personal cheerleader? He's not.
Okay, let Amit Malviya respond to what you're saying.
He'll say all these things. And the other, no.
Go on, Swati.
Let me finish. I have one more thing to say. The other thing I want to say is that, this is a battle of perceptions. If you don't like the BJP, you're going to say Rahul Gandhi is doing fine. He's not Mr. Modi's personal cheerleader. If you like the BJP, you're going to get all angry and upset and say, Mr. Modi said it to the diaspora, but Rahul Gandhi is saying it to the British Parliament. I mean, this is, this is, as a journalist, I think it's a storm in a teacup.
Amit Malviya, Swati's argument is there are serious challenges to India's democracy. Think tanks are being raided. There is a sense that the government is unhappy with criticism, and therefore Rahul Gandhi wants to go abroad to raise his voice, as the Prime Minister did. This difference between speaking to the diaspora and speaking to the British Parliament is only a marginal difference. Both have leaders speak out against their country at international fora. Nothing turns on it. Amit Malviya.
The problem with people like Swati and the assorted activist gang which wants to target Mr. Modi and his government is that they are economical with truth and they make sweeping statements. I just heard Swati say that Prime Minister Modi has not held a press conference. Why don't you tell her, Rahul, that Mr. Puri and Kalli Puri, your promoters, meet the Prime Minister fairly regularly? Number one. Number two, she said that the CPR and other institutions have been shut down. No, CPR has not been shut down. Just that their FCRA license, given the source of funding, which was unqualified, has been put under radar, and they have been told that you cannot accept foreign currency funding from sources that are not kosher. It is not the same as shutting down institutions. It is just ensuring that you do not have vested interest have a play in public discourse and policy of the Indian government and Indian public at large. So when you make these statements on national television and you want to be critical of Prime Minister Modi, and when you are not rooted in truth or reality, you come out looking very ordinary, like Swati just did. Secondly, again, it's another thing to speak to the diaspora who have a stake in India's growth, in India's future, and it is quite another to go to British MPs and go to the Parliament of Britain and make an appeal. It is quite another thing to speak to a bunch of foreign journalists and seek intervention of Europe and America. Let's be very clear, India is not an India of the 70s or the 80s, which depends on these Western powers for its existence. We are a powerful country, the world is looking towards us. The number of people who have sought India's intervention in the Ukraine-Russia war should tell you where we stand.
Okay.
India is today the president of the G20 coalition, one of the most powerful groupings in the world. Europe has its own problem. UK is now behind India as far as the size of the economy is concerned. We will be very soon ahead of other European countries. So let America, which is fighting a great deal of racial discontentment in their own country, a failing economy, high inflation, they can't be dictating to India. I mean, if Rahul Gandhi thinks that whether Europe or US or for that matter UK can intervene and save India's democracy because
Rahul,
the Indians have rejected Rahul Gandhi, he is living in La La Land.
Okay, Sushant.
Rahul, actually, I have a question from you. You are a Sikh. Are you a second-class citizen in this country?
I don't feel like a second-class citizen at all. However, I do think that there are challenges to every democracy. There are challenges in India, there are challenges in Europe, there are challenges in the United States, and those challenges, people need to be aware of, Rahul, and they need to be fought. Yeah, go on, Sushant.
Rahul, for somebody, as senior opposition leader like Mr. Rahul Gandhi, to go to the UK or to any other country for that matter, and to openly say out there that Sikhs are second-class citizens in India, as are Muslims, as are Christians, it's not even true. So what is he trying to do? I don't know, unless, of course, there is something seriously wrong with the people who are advising him or misadvising him. How can an Indian political leader go out, say out there at a time when we are certainly seeing a certain ferment in Punjab? What is he trying to do? Light the fires out there?
Let Supriya respond
what
to
is
that.
The purpose
at
of
a time
like
when
this?
Punjab is in ferment, to say Sikhs are feeling like second-class citizens, that's like trying to put some kind of a matchstick in a fire.
I strongly disagree with every word that Sushant Sareen, who I once used to respect a lot, has spoken on the show, but I am not going to call him ordinary like the BJP spokesperson just called another commentator. I just disagree with him. I refute every word that he has said, and I want to say something. Amit Malviya ne ek sach bola hai show pe. He has spoken one truth, that this is not an India of the 70s. You are absolutely damn right about it, because the India of the 70s split Pakistan into two and changed the geography of this country because of a decisive leadership of Indira Ji and the supreme valor and courage of our armed forces. You, on the other hand, sit there, keep turning our patrolling points into buffer zones. You do not squeak a word on China. The PLA says, what's the fuss about? Your Prime Minister says nobody has entered. We say the same thing. You do not have the courage to even name China, or for that matter, your good friend Adani. So you're right. We are not an India of the 70s. I also want to say the lack of democracy, you want to see a proof. The proof of the pudding is absolutely in eating. Where is the lack of democracy? Here. A spokesperson of the ruling party says just because some prop writers and senior editors go and meet the PM over a cup of tea or coffee or whatever it may be, a meal, democracy is alive and press conferences are happening. Do you even understand? Can you even spell press conference? Press varta Hindi mein or press conference English mein spelling samajhte hain aap uski? It's ridiculous for you to make these arguments because you have gotten used to a system where the Prime Minister will be asked, tonic kya lete hai kya, thakte kyun nahi? Aam kaise khate hain? Choose kar ya kaat kar? We have got our democracy to an extent where the Prime Minister is asked these questions. We have got our democracy to an extent where two houses of parliament do not see the Prime Minister answer on Adani when he speaks for 2 hours 40 minutes. A man who's saddled with corruption charges, who's saddled with charges of Benami money being diverted into India through a web of shell companies. You want to hide behind the Supreme Court Committee, while the Supreme Court Committee's terms of references, review of regulatory framework. What about the charges about regulation, about Mr. Adani that continue to plague this government?
Okay, Amit Malviya,
everybody knows.
Supriya's response is that the communication is one-sided in the context of what the Prime Minister and the government wish to communicate. The questions that the likes of Rahul Gandhi, Supriya Shrinate and the others are asking, those questions aren't being addressed, and they cite that as an example of India's democracy not being open. Let Mr. Malviya respond to that.
Look, Rahul, the Congress has started sounding jade and repetitive. They come on every show and say the same thing, which does not resonate with anybody because it's not the truth. The only time that China entered India is when Nehru was the Prime Minister, and the second time they did was when UPA was in power between 2010 and 2013. There were more than 600 incursions when Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister, and roughly 740 square kilometer land was encroached. So these are matters of truth. Their own NSA has put this on record, but they insist on trying to paint this government as someone which allowed China to enter. That is not the truth. Secondly, and I say this again, the Congress can lock themselves in a room and speak to themselves for all they want, but the truth is the people of India are not listening to them, and that's why they're frustrated. If you see this entire program, the Congress spokesperson has been screeching and shouting. She's hysterical. I mean, is that how you make an argument if you have truth by your side? Of course not. And that's what Rahul Gandhi does. And that's what their spokespeople do. That's what their supporters like Sanjay Jha and Swati Chaturvedi do. They are economical with truth. They make sweeping statements. But it's not cutting ice with the people. And that is where the problem is. And that's where the frustration lies. The fact is, Rahul, that Mr. Modi has given India a governance model. He has ensured that the value of Indian passport goes up significantly. We are no more dependent on foreign countries and we don't seek their endorsement. Let me make that very clear. We are not a country and we are not somebody like Indira Gandhi who would accept money from American agencies or Russian agencies to run her party and her government. That is the big difference between 70s, 80s and the country that we are today. We speak about Atmanirbharta. We are in Amrit Kal, and that is the golden period that we want to live in India. The Congress can be upset and frustrated because clearly they have reasons to be so. Nobody is buying their bile. You understand? And I can understand for somebody that has been in power for almost 6 decades to be out of power and not have any hope on horizon. It can be frustrating, but you can't keep your frustration on the country.
Okay, I'm out of time. Sanjay Jha has his hand up. I'm going to give him an opportunity to make a concluding comment. Sanjay.
Rahul, you know, the BJP spokesperson cannot be so disingenuous. This is a very intelligent panel here. And the viewers, I'm sure, I have enormous respect for them. You know, when he says that, you know, we don't need the BBC, we don't need to listen to the Western media. My friend, let me tell you, I've been a banker. The Prime Minister of India has gone with a shopping bag and literally begged for foreign direct investment. And your spokesperson come on TV shows and say, you know what, we got this much money from America, we got this much money from the UK. Well, let me tell you, you go down on your knees with a shopping bag for dollars and for pounds. So you all also have to take the criticism of what the Western media says about you.
But Sanjay Jha, if you've been an investment banker, you know more than anyone else. No investor invests, no matter whether you're begging or pleading. They invest only if they think it makes sense and if they will get money.
So you can't
they don't invest because somebody's requesting for money. But anyway, Amit Malviya will make a quick counter and then we wrap up. Amit.
You can't have the cake and eat it too.
Look, very quickly. First of all, Sanjay Jha used to sell mutual funds, as far as I know. And I've been a corporate banker, so I know investment better than what Sanjay Jha can ever tell you about. Secondly, he speaks about BBC. The BBC has been under the radar of the income tax authorities, not after the NDA came to power, but even while the UPA was in power. The fact is that if you have to operate in India, you have to follow the laws. You cannot have transfer pricing that goes very, you can't underreport your income. You will be questioned whether you are BBC or you are anybody else. You are not above Indian law. That is point number one. Point number two, people are investing in the India story because they see hope in this country. They see political stability. They see an economic environment that is suitable to them. They see a policy regime that is going in their favor. That is why big companies are setting up manufacturing shops here. People will not go and invest in a country just because the Prime Minister has been there. Because Nehru used to do that, Indira used to do that, Rajiv used to do that. In fact, Dr. Manmohan Singh would go and get a tap on his back from Obama, but not investment. So clearly, India has been put at a pedestal where we deal as equals. Prime Minister Modi today is the most popular world leader.
You
He
can't have the
attracts,
cake and eat it
people
too,
to
my
our
friend.
country.
Understand
as far
it.
as investments goes, as far as our position in the world order is concerned. So we've really come a long way. It's quite unfathomable for the Congress to imagine the India that we are today. Far cry from the one that went with a begging bowl.
Okay, I'm out of time.
Giving out orders for hundreds of Boeings, and America and UK are claiming that this will
Okay, if you've seen this debate, if you watch this debate, you know that Indian democracy is far from dead, okay? We've had punches being thrown, we've had counter punches, we've had attacks, counter attacks, which is the way a noisy democracy like India really ought to be. And more importantly, you've had arguments and counter arguments. And if you want to win in India democratically, you need to take your message to the people. Let the voters decide who they wish to elect. It could be the Congress, could be the BJP, could be somebody else. They're the ones who decide. Anyway, I don't wish to take a side. We've put different, very sharp perspectives out on this broadcast. We leave it to you, as always, a viewer, to decide whose argument you thought had the greatest weight. Thank you for tuning in. I'm slipping into break. More on the other side when we come back. Back in a moment. Stay with me.
India Today Conclave 2023, March 17th and 18th, New Delhi. Listen to Anita Sengupta, Brad Smith, Michael Pillsbury, Ren Ito, The India Moment.
Abhishek, you are launching these prestige brands, but there are lots of smaller companies which are coming out with interesting products. Particularly, I mean, if you go to Goa, there are these craft gins which are coming up. They are not huge in size. And we saw that Greater Than Gin was quite a success before Diageo bought a stake in that company. Have you considered the option of picking up some of these smaller brands, or does it make more sense for you to build rather than buy?
Radico, personally, and Radico, we've always believed in innovation. And even if you see our history, when we launched our first brand in 1998, we are the only company which has organically created all the brands. Today we have 5 millionaire brands, and in the coming year, hopefully, we are going to add 2 more millionaire brands. So we'll have total 7 million cases brands in our portfolio. So we believe in organic creation rather than buy. So for us, our passion is to create brands with a unique standing in the market and a very different character. So we would not be looking at acquiring brands. In fact, we will be looking at creating newer segments and newer brands.
The one question which keeps coming up is for Radico, for investors of yours, and they have done quite well with your stock over the last many years, is that as you do this expansion, and you are clearly on a significant expansion mode, could the balance sheet get stretched once again? Because in the last few years, you've actually cut down your debt, which was a problem area, but now no longer is. But as you keep on adding capacity and launching new brands, are your current cash flows enough to drive that expansion, or would you need to load up that balance sheet once again?
If you see, in 2016, we had a peak debt of 960 crores. And last year, our debt was about 160. And in fact, our working capital also, we pumped in about close to 400 crores from internal accruals. So we are totally deleveraged. And going forward, we have doubled our capacity because the demand is so high. So we have increased the capacity in Rampur. We have put a greenfield plant in Sitapur, which would be one of the largest plants in Asia. And going forward, I don't think so debt would be an issue, because in the next 3 to 4 years, we'll be again debt free, because the kind of cash flows the company will throw and the kind of things we are seeing in the future. So debt we don't see as an issue at all.
Prime Minister Modi and his Australian counterpart Anthony Albanese's cricket pe charcha today was the highlight this morning. The setting was day one of the fourth test match of the Border Gavaskar series. The two leaders did a lap of honour around the Narendra Modi Stadium where they were greeted with loud cheers. This is where we wrap up the news track tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Till then, from all of us here, goodbye, good night.
Captain Shaliza Dhami. She's a qualified helicopter pilot with over 2,800 hours of flying experience. And now she's the commanding officer of a frontline missile squadron near the Pakistan border. Group Captain Shaliza Dhami created history on 7th of March 2023 by becoming the first female officer in such a combat role in Indian forces.
If you talk about commanding a unit, see, command doesn't require a gender. It's not based on gender, it is a capability. If you are meeting rescuers, you will be given that opportunities. And as you have said in the opening statement, if I have so many firsts with me, so people have given me the opportunity.
And she is not alone. Captain Shiva Chauhan of Fire and Fury Sappers became the first woman officer to be operationally deployed in Siachen in January. After completing arduous training at the highest battlefield of the world, she is now deployed in Kumar Post, ready to safeguard world's highest and deadliest battleground, the Siachen Glacier.
So it is really a great experience and great opportunity for me to grab it, sir, to be the first here in Siachen, sir. And moreover, I feel that from now onwards, more and more women officers will be coming here, serving this terrain, and many might get inspired to join the Indian Army, sir.
From the western front to the eastern flank, Nari Shakti stands guard in Indian defence, flying high in the air. Flying free with the hawk's instinct to guard the motherland. Flying Su-30 fighter jet as weapon system operator is the first Indian woman Flight Lieutenant Tejasvi of the Indian Air Force, along with other women pilots who's ready to respond to any eventuality. These women are smart, savvy and super confident and deployed at the China front. Indian Air Force's women's superpower at the Eastern Front are a band of young.
Co-presented by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist. Co-presented by Panasonic, create today, enrich tomorrow. Co-powered by CED, it helps. Co-powered by Sera, this is your space, play it your way.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination news, newsmakers, talking points. The big talking point, the Prime Ministers of India and Australia, Modi and Albanese, in a cricket friendly. Is this soft diplomacy or simply building up cult politics? That's going to be the big talking point on the news today. Also, as the liquor gate trail leads to Telangana, we'll be joined by the BRS leader K. Kavita. She's the one who's in the line of fire next. More on the news today, but first, as always, the 9 headlines at 9. After the CBI, now the Enforcement Directorate arrests Manish Sisodia after 2 days of grilling in the Liquorgate case. Kejriwal calls it a plot to keep Sisodia in jail. If you have proof, come and arrest me. BRS leader K. Kavita dares the ED in an exclusive interview to India Today. She will appear before the Directorate on Saturday in the Delhi Liquorgate case. India-Australia cricket diplomacy on the high in Ahmedabad. Prime Minister Modi and his Australian counterpart Anthony Albanese attend the 4th test between the two teams. Congress accuses Modi of self-obsession while taking a lap of honour in a stadium named after him.
US intel report on India's border situation says it fears increased India-Pak and India-China tension, adds India is more likely to respond with military force now than in the past. Karnataka bribegate accused BJP MLA Madal Virupakshappa appears before the Lok Ayukta. This just days after the allegedly absconding Neta resurfaced after getting anticipatory bail. Widows of Pulwama Braves stage a protest in Jaipur after an assault from Rajasthan police. Anger mounts against the Gehlot government. BJP says Congress betrayed the Pulwama heroes. Rivals turn allies in Nagaland. Sharad Pawar extends support to the NDPP-BJP government with 7 seats. NCP is the largest party in the assembly outside of the combine. Toxic smoke chokes Kochi after a blaze at a waste plant. Kochi fire rages for 7 days now and counting. School shut. Mask advisory issued. An actor and director Satish Kaushik passes away at 67. Tributes pour in from the Bollywood fraternity. But our top focus tonight is what is described as cricket diplomacy that took place at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. Prime Minister Modi and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese virtually kicked off the proceedings of the 4th test between India and Australia. The two leaders led a colourful celebration at the world's largest cricket stadium to mark 75 years of India-Australia cricket, including doing a lap of honour. The opposition says this is an exercise of self-obsession as the stadium in which this was held is named after the Prime Minister. The BJP has dismissed that, saying it shows India's soft power. Either way, what exactly happens beyond the boundary when two Prime Ministers meet is our top story tonight.
प्राइम मिनिस्टर ये स्टेडियम में आ रहे हैं इनॉग्रेशन के लिए, मैच स्टार्ट ओपनिंग के लिए, इसलिए बहुत ज़्यादा एक्साइटमेंट है अभी।
आज के मैच के लिए एक्साइटेड है कि मेन तो अपना इंडिया है और उसके बाद यहाँ पे नरेंद्र मोदी जी आने वाले हैं।
नरेंद्र मोदी के लिए भी खास है।
हाँ जी।
The world's largest cricket stadium is hosting the game's most competitive rivals. But on Thursday, it also witnessed a cricket friendly.
And as I said, this match being played in the backdrop of India-Australia friendship and...
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese took the crease for an elaborate celebration of 75 years of Indo-Australian cricket. The leaders of the two nations that share not just robust trade ties but also a strategic relationship got a rousing welcome at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. They were treated to music by Falguni Shah and a little folk dance before they took the field.
We'll get his cap from the Honourable Prime Minister of India.
Modi and Albanese first handed over the caps to the cricket captains. Then the skippers led the two leaders to their respective teams, introducing each player.
As the two Honourable Prime Ministers.
All followed by a lap around the stadium in a specially designed rath. Two leaders also watched a bit of cricket before leaving the stadium. The spectacle, however, sparked a political row.
अगर ये आत्ममुग्धता ना होती तो प्रधानमंत्री महंगाई की, बेरोजगारी की, आर्थिक असमानता की, चीन की और अडानी की बात करते। लेकिन ये आत्ममुग्धता ही तो है जिसके चलते उसके आगे देख ही नहीं पा रहे हैं। जहां देखो कैमरे पर सिर्फ मोदी जी ही नजर आते हैं। खैर, इससे हमें कोई दिक्कत नहीं है एज लॉन्ग एज मोदी जी इस देश के मुद्दों पर बात करें, लेकिन वो मुद्दों से कतराते हैं, विषय से घबराते हैं।
Congress leader Jairam Ramesh tweeted the whole exercise was proof of Modi's self-obsession. The BJP promptly hit back.
जयराम रमेश जी ने एक बड़ी ही ओछी भाषा के साथ ट्वीट किया जो उनकी मानसिकता और उनकी पार्टी की मानसिकता को दर्शाता है। सेल्फ ऑब्सेशन पता किसको कहते हैं? जो जवाहरलाल नेहरू जी में